Let's continue with the poem Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. Now, we did the first stanza initially in the previous class. Now, we'll be continuing with the second stanza now. Now, in the second stanza, as we already discussed, that hawk roosting is an animal imagery poem, and of course, title indicates that hawk is a bird of prey, of course, and the thoughts and the ideologies of the hawk, the way this bird of prey has been personified by Ted Hughes, and the way the implications move on, various kinds of multiple implications we find here in the poem. Now, in the second stanza, the hawk conveys to his reader how easy and convenient his life is. Everything in nature, it seems, has been made for the sake of his pleasure and ease. This is thinking of the hawk. Now, in the fifth line, the hawk seems to be marveling at how much nature has given him. He is so empathetic that he has even used an exclamation point to convey his feelings. The trees are high for him, the air is buoyant, making it easy for him to guide. The sun's rays gives him warmth. He claims that all of these aspects of nature make his life more convenient. Now, Hughes also creates a parallel between ups and downs. All is below the hawk. The earth sits below him so that he can inspect it from his porch. This dichotomy reflects the superiority of the hawk. So, this is what exactly Ted Hughes is conveying in the second stanza. Now, in the third stanza, the hawk is announcing his perfection to his reader. Again, he draws attention to his sharp claws stabbing into the tree's limbs as he perches. He explains that it took creation, probably capitalized here, in order to represent God, everything he possessed in order. So here, just imagine the kind of pride that the hawk has, that it's even considering itself to be equal to God, so powerful like God. So everything he possessed in order to produce just one of hawk's feet and each and every feather on his body. So in the third stanza, there is an image of a higher power which is being, which is hardest at work and slaving over how to create such a great and powerful being, that is hawk. So now the hawk proclaims that he himself is God, the more powerful, most powerful than any being on both earth and heaven. So now this is something which appears to be a kind of an arrogancy by the hawk, and the way the pride leads to a kind of self-destruction. It's always said that pride always leads to self-destruction. So power, God is not only made of power, God is made of thousands of things, and basically God is a power which is humble. You know, God is a power which cares. God is a power which is merciful, but He is not focusing on those qualities. In the fourth stanza now, the hawk is essentially saying that he can do whatever he pleases. He can fly slowly through the air, taking in all of the sights beneath him. He can kill whenever he pleases because of all the world belongs to him. So now, see, the misuse of the power is clearly visible in these lines. There is no need to lie or pretend otherwise, because a hawk can prove his power by tearing off the heads of his victims. So, this is what we can say the misuse of the power is indicated in the fourth stanza. Now, in the fourth stanza, also, it does not end neatly again. Ted Hughes here carries the thoughts of the hawk into the fifth stanza. And what he says in the fifth stanza? In the fifth stanza, Hawk is so godlike that he says he chooses who lives and dies. So the one flight, sorry, he makes, yes, the one flight he makes is the one he takes to kill his prey. So there are no arguments which are necessary, because the hawk thinks that he is all powerful. So we'll complete it five stanzas, and now we'll start with the sixth stanza in the next class. Thank you so much.